That music you hear is the sound of the gifted cellist Benjamin Gates. He's a self-described musician of the people who's performed everywhere, from the White House and the Kennedy Center to the streets of D.C. And later on in the show, another talented musician, JenViolin, performs on our special String Fever edition of The Sound. I'm Britt Waters, and welcome to The Sound. Stopping by today is a virtuoso cellist from D.C. named Benjamin Gates. Now, when I pictured cello, it was kind of like this big wooden thing, but this isn't like that. Explain this to us.
Well, instead of having a sound post where you would in an acoustic cello, I actually have a microphone where this sound post would be, and the strings vibrate off of the wood of the bridge here and picks up into the microphone and gets sent into the amplifiers that you see behind me, and that's how it works.
So this is kind of like a new age cello.
Yes, yes.
How long have you had this?
I've had this one for 2 years, and the first time I had her, the first time I played her, she actually pricked my finger. Yeah. Her name is Rose, because the first time I ever played her, she actually pricked my finger, so I decided to name her Rose, like, you know, the thorn of a rose. So.
Well, thanks for joining us, Rose. So what do you have for us first today?
Well, I'm actually performing an original piece for you by the name of Ollie's Creed. So I've been working on it for a while now, and it's still a work in progress. But I'm going to give you guys what I have today, and I hope that you enjoy it. So I thank you.
Well, I hope you and her have a good time. Take it away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. the backstory on the self-described musician of the people, Benjamin Gates. And the beautiful violinist called JenViolin brings more strings to the soundstage, so stick around for the sound. Welcome back to The Sound. I'm Britt Waters here with one of the DMV's most talented musicians, classically trained cellist, Benjamin Gates. Thank you for joining us. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Now, you've been playing the cello since 4, is that correct?
Yes.
How did that get started? Like, was it around you? Like, you know, growing up, everybody wants to be in like a garage band or like play something crazy. Why the cello at 4?
Well, it's actually a funny story. My mother had asked me if I wanted to go into sports or music, and I told her that I wanted to go into music. She didn't want me around the house watching cartoons all day, so she took me to a program in DC, the DC Youth Orchestra, and she took me to their petting zoos, which they have a lot of instruments that they bring out to younger kids, and they let you try the different instruments, and then after that, you can pick the instrument that you want to play, and then you register with the program, and you go in for your classes. So it just so happens that I wanted to play drums initially, but after my mother telling me that she didn't want me banging around the house, I decided that the next instrument that I tried was the cello, and I decided that that was the instrument that I wanted to play. And the reason being is actually a funny story. At the time in the program, if you were a violinist, a viola player, a bass player, you had to stand and play your instrument, of course. So at the time, the cello was the only instrument in the orchestra that you can actually sit down and play. Oh,
don't tell me that's why you picked that.
Yeah. So that turned out to be the reason initially, right? And then
laziness pays off sometimes.
It does.
Yeah.
And then over time, I came to really appreciate and love the instrument. Of course, you know, I started on acoustic. And the one thing that I loved about it was how the sound resonates within you. As you know, the instrument actually sits against your sternum. So majority of the frequency that goes into the cello, like an acoustic, actually comes back and resonates with you as a person. So it's an instrument that I loved. And
so you have like a full-blown relationship with your cello.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you've accomplished so much, performed all over DC, the Kennedy Center, the White House. But I mean, it couldn't have always been up here. You know, the music game is always in and out. So what was kind of something that you kind of overcame to get to where you are now?
Well, there's been a lot of different scenarios that have taken place between me and different individuals and support. So that's kind of, I mean, I don't know how to necessarily describe the challenges, because the way I look at them is as they came and they've been accomplished. You know, I put them all in the past, and I try not to dwell on them too much because that could create a very negative energy with moving forward in the future. But I can tell you this: when I first started out getting back into Washington, D.C., I decided that I was going to put cello down for a while because I was coming back from a rough place in my life. So after putting the cello down for 6 months, I picked it up again, and I decided that I was going to go out into the streets of Washington, D.C. and perform directly to the people. So over time, that brought a lot of great opportunities from the city, just to be able to help me out with the phases that I was going through in life. And I'm extremely grateful for the opportunities that have been extended to me through Washington, D.C.
Amazing opportunities.
Yes,
You've
amazing
definitely
opportunities.
taken advantage of the culture here in D.C. So what is something you can tell to maybe someone that's younger, who's maybe in the D.C. Youth Orchestra program and picking the cello for the first time and kind of intimidated by it because it's not as popular as other instruments? What kind of advice can you give them?
The advice that I would give them is, and this is funny because I say this all the time, is to literally take one day at a time, you know. And that's with the challenges, you know, that start off with the things that your teachers give you that you want to practice. And then over time, you find that music is more so incorporated with things that go on in life. So I would say it's more so focused on character. Make sure that while you practice music, make sure when you're getting in good venues that you maintain your character, because as a musician, that's something that we constantly forget.
And you can see your character on stage. Like I said, you can tell you have a relationship with that cello. And we want to hear more. This is the String Fever edition of The Sound. So we want to turn our attention to the soundstage again for another performance. But now we have JenViolin. Welcome back to The Sound. Britt Waters here with the very talented Miss Jennifer Reed, known professionally as JenViolin.
That's me.
Now you just took your violin and put it on your name. Tell me about that.
JenViolin actually started, I was really, really young, kind of when we first started getting emails, and I had to think of what I wanted my email address to be, and it ended up being JenViolin at whatever.com, and it kind of just followed me this whole time. I never let it go.
When everybody else was like _QDXX,
yeah, my mom wasn't having that, so I had to be something a little more traditional. So this worked.
So why the violin out of all the instruments that are popular?
Well, the first instrument I ever played was piano. My mom's a classical pianist, so there was one around, my grandpa's house, and naturally.
Did you guys play together?
Actually, in high school, we did. All my recitals and performances she played, but I played piano and I danced a lot as a kid, and I did a lot of things, and I had a really good friend in elementary school that played the violin, and I was like, oh, I want to try that, and I had been trying lots of things, and it just came to a point where my mom was like, you're moving too fast, you need to decide what do you want to stick with, and I had been dancing for a long time at that point, so I just decided I'm going to go with violin and see where it takes me, and
taking you
here I
am,
yeah.
Has DC been pretty supportive of the arts?
Yeah, I think DC has been very supportive for me. Personally, I do a lot of intimate type gigs. I do weddings, cocktail hours, banquets, things of that nature. Yeah, because I get to interact with the crowd, and I'm lucky enough to be able to play by ear, so people will run up and say, hey, can you play this, or do you have this song, or do you know this song, and I can kind of just jam out with whatever, audience I have, so that's been really fun, especially in the DC area.
So you're like a violinist on demand, so we can just like put you on the spot.
Yeah, my friends do that a lot. I'll get a lot of calls or texts. Hey, have you heard that new so-and-so song? Can you play that? Can you do that and post it? So that's where a lot of it stems from. I like to do more trendy stuff. I mean, I'm classically trained, but to be honest, it gets kind of boring. And everybody that plays violin is normally classically trained. So I think it kind of helps me stand out.
It does. I was like, hey, I know that song. I play that on the radio.
Yeah.
So is there any favorite kind of music that you like to play?
My favorite would be the more modern R&B, hip-hop songs, because it's songs that I'm listening to anyway in the car on the way to work or wherever I'm going. It's music that I hear. It's stuff that my friends will recognize, that people listening will recognize. So that's fun, because the thing about classical music is you'll play it and people will say, that was pretty, but it all sounds the same. They don't know the composer. They don't know.
They're not mature enough for the music.
We'll call it that, yeah.
But so hip-hop has been so accepting of instruments and things like that. Is there any artist that you dream of playing for?
Dream of playing for, I know Beyonce has her all-female, ensemble. I would love to be a part of that, so please let her know. But
I'll call her,
Yeah, we'll call her. But I was really inspired by Mary Ben-Ari, who was kind of out with Kanye, and she, I think, put the violin on the hip-hop map. So I really looked up to her growing up. She was big on the radio with Kanye, so that's kind of what got me into doing the more modern music too.
Yeah, I loved when she worked with Kanye on the, what was that, with all the ballerinas? I could see you in there doing that. But I mean, this is the string fever edition of the sound, so we might as well put both strings together like a cello and a violin.
I think that's a great idea.
Can we do like a battle of the strings? Would you be down, Benjamin Gates? Come on over to the sound stage. I mean, you said you were up for anything, and you never know what can happen
at the sound.
A little
impromptu never hurts.
So, are you down?
I'm down, yeah.
All right, well, we'll keep it peaceful.
Okay.
And we'll let you guys collaborate right here on the spot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll leave it to y'all.
All righty.
Awesome. Like that was amazing. I could listen to this all day. Thank you so much to JenViolin and Benjamin Gates. And for all of you watching, we'll see you again on the next edition of The Sound.